If you have any problems with the audio or with when I'm showing my screen in the PowerPoint, please use the chat window and we'll get it adjusted. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. This is the 30 on Thursday series, a bi-weekly 30-minute webinar series that we at SusQtech have put together to talk about different subjects relative to SharePoint and try to do it in a very brief, concise manner. For the record, our next webinar covering Power Pivot and Excel on SharePoint will be October 27th at 1:30. A full schedule of upcoming webinars is available at www.susqtech.com/webinars. And we want your feedback. We put this together to engage and try to educate and talk about topics you're interested in. So if there's anything you want to hear about or if you have any questions, feel free to email webinars@susqtech.com. Today's session will be covering SP Community 1.5, taking social SharePoint to the next level. I'm your presenter, Steve Witt, Vice President of Product Development and Marketing here at SusQtech. And also on the line, our moderator, Julia Oates, who's a marketing coordinator here at SusQtech. She will be handling questions, the chat window, etc., as I give the presentation. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So a brief overview of what we're going to cover today when we talk about SP Community, for those people who are not familiar with it, is what exactly is SP Community. And SP Community is SusQtech's, well, I'll say social add-on, community add-on for SharePoint 2010. And it's actually broken into 4 independent modules that can be installed and used individually, or you can buy SP Community as a package that includes all 4 independent modules as well as some things that tie them all together. And those modules that we're going to cover today are SP Activities, SP Groups, SP Colleague Connect, and SP My Content. So what we're really excited about and want to talk about today is focus on what's new in SP Community 1.5. Version 1.5 was released on October 1st in advance of the Microsoft SharePoint conference held last week in Anaheim. And the new version features a completely upgraded user experience with a new community master page and a number of elements to make the overall use of some of the components in SharePoint 2010, the social components of SharePoint 2010, much easier to use and a little bit more user-friendly. With that, we have an enhanced activity feed component, which is part of SP Activities. We have an enhanced My Profile web part, which anchors your community experience. We have additional colleague capabilities in the colleague web part, additional group capabilities in the My Group web part, and an enhanced group landing page, which ties all of the group functionality together and allows your users to create groups. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We'll jump right into the demo. And we're going to show you today a real-world example of how we at SusQtech utilize SP Community. So what you're looking at here is a site that we at SusQtech call StaffCom. This is an internal employee site that we use SP Community to talk about everything from SharePoint-related topics to social topics to personal topics, etc., all around and for the purposes of communicating with our staff. So what you're looking at here is the homepage, which is new in SP Community 1.5. You'll notice that we have upgraded the user interface of all the individual components as well as the master page itself to kind of tie everything together in a cohesive interface. We have icons that are part of each web part to symbolize what each piece of functionality does, and allows you to basically interact right here from within the homepage. And we'll take a look at that in a second. So in addition to the new master page and homepage and just general look and feel enhancements we've made, we have this new or revised mini profile that I mentioned acts as the anchor of your experience when using some of the social features in SP Community and SharePoint. In here in the mini profile, you have a much more concise status bar where you can click and update your status and tell everybody what you're doing. In this case, You can easily update your status from here or any of the other pages where the mini profile appears. In addition, and something that SharePoint doesn't necessarily allow you to do out of the box that we've included is the ability to attach images or documents right to your status update. This works much like Facebook. So if you were, updating your status and you wanted to include a photo in your status update, that works much the same way. You can attach a photo and it'll appear in your activity feed. We'll cover the activity feed here in a second. So go ahead and hit share. In addition, anywhere that a name appears on the website, whether it's your photo, or your name down in the activity feed or in colleagues or in groups, anywhere your name appears, it will be hyperlinked and provide you a link to your profile. So I can come in here and select my name or Karen's name and go in and take a look at the profile. And you'll notice now that I've jumped from the home page into an actual profile page, but as part of the master page in SP Community, we've included the mini profile web part on our master page to be that anchor throughout the community experience. So if I'm in here and I decide I want to update my status, I can do that right here from within the profile page. It'll also appear on the group pages and some of the other pages within SP Community. And you'll also notice down here that it takes your last 5 activities from your activity feed as well. So if you're doing a lot of work in your group and you don't always want to jump back to the home page, you have this ongoing ticker, if you will, of your 5 most recent activities that appear as part of that mini profile. And again, here we have this replaces the out-of-the-box SharePoint profile with something that's a little bit more streamlined. It's not as large, and it pulls in some other elements common to the out-of-the-box profile page, as well as some things that are specific to SP Community. So we've streamlined the profile piece down here. We've shortened up the status bar up here for updating your status. You'll notice that we're using our colleague web part here, as well as recent discussions that I'm engaged in. So this page is available to anybody in the community. So in this case, I'm looking at my profile, but this would be very similar to if somebody was looking at my profile from clicking on my name, or if I was looking at one of my colleagues' profiles. So you get a filter which then shows your activities, and these are all the recent activities that I've posted, and you don't see any of the other colleague activities other than if somebody's posted comments to something that I've posted in my status. You also see over here in recent discussions, this shows all of the recent discussions that I've been involved with in the community, and then it shows all the groups that I'm involved with. So this is all very specific to me and my interaction within the community. So jumping down to the next web part here on the home page, which is part of the SP Colleague Connect component, is the My Colleagues web part. Now SharePoint 2010 provides you a colleague component and recommended colleague out of the box. What we've done is we've kind of built on top of that, streamlined the interface, provided some more filtering options, and the ability really to add and remove colleagues right here from within the web part, and have it modular so you can move it around the page. So if I wanted to, I could simply add a new colleague by clicking the Add Colleague button. It's going to open the wizard just like out-of-the-box SharePoint 2010. And I can go ahead and locate a colleague, add them to a group, and determine what I want to show to those colleagues. In addition, if there's active colleagues that I have in my list and I don't want to be colleagues with them anymore, I can simply hit Remove Colleague. And it's going to update that colleague status so I'm no longer a colleague with Amanda. In addition, I can filter and look at just a general list of colleagues or my specific colleagues, or I can use the search box to locate somebody by name. So in the case now where I have 46 colleagues and I want to look for somebody specific, I can see that. In addition, with the SP Colleague component, we've included the ability to do two-way colleague connections, and it's an option that you can toggle on and off when SP Colleague Connect is installed. That changes the native SharePoint 2010 colleague feature from a follow style of colleague feature, very similar to Twitter, where I find somebody and I say, oh, they're my colleague, and now I get access to all of their activities and things like that, which is what SharePoint 2010 does out of the box. I can change that to be a two-way colleague where the person needs to basically accept my colleague request before we make that colleague connection, and then I have access to their activity feeds and some other information that they've deemed appropriate for their colleagues. So that's important when using community features like this in maybe an extranet style fashion or in a large organization where you want a greater level of control over who is actually your colleague and what they have access to see about your activities within the community. In the case here on the StaffCom site for SusQtech, we do not have that feature enabled, but it is a simple toggle checkbox in the administration that when you turn it on, you have that ability. And when that is turned on, there's an additional web part that becomes available, which is your colleague requests. So in addition to see who your actual colleagues are, you'd have another web part with your pending requests that you can either accept or reject. I'm going to move on to really what is the hub of the SP community experience, and that is here in the middle, content well, the activity feed. And the activity feed and SP community and here on StaffCom is where a lot of the interaction within the community centers around, because it shows you all of the activities that your colleagues are engaging in. So here I've made the status I made earlier. I'm doing a webinar on SP Community. You'll see shows up and it's now visible on all of my colleagues. It appears on their activity feed on their homepage as well, and they have the ability to come in and comment. So I can simply come in here and in the middle of and I can simply hit share. And this is a feature that is unique to SP Community in that SharePoint 2010 out of the box does not include the capability to necessarily comment on statuses. In addition to being able to comment on status, you notice in the UI here that my comment became immediately available, and it didn't involve a huge page refresh, etc. So I can interact and go and comment on other people's statuses all without having to jump off pages or use a lot of pop-up modal dialog type boxes. In addition to the user interface in and around the activities, SP Community provides the ability to track more than just the standard out-of-the-box activities as defined in SharePoint 2010, which are very, what I'll say, profile-centric. So-and-so has a birthday coming up, so-and-so updated their phone number, so-and-so is now colleagues with this person. And we've added additional activities within the site that then show up in your activity feed. And this includes the activities related to document libraries, picture libraries, discussions, and any SP group creation activities that might happen, which is unique to the SP Community product. So if I scroll down through the list here, you'll notice that in this case, Amanda Grove had tagged a work order. If I go down a little bit further, and you can see I can expand the activities without having to refresh the page and get into looking at additionals. And then down here, Claire has posted a document to a document library, which now shows up in the activity feed. So this is very useful in a community environment where you may be a part of a number of groups and somebody posts a new, either they could be meeting minutes or they could post a new white paper or whatever, and now that bubbles up and shows up as activity on your homepage, which is very useful. And it's very common with some of the other social networking tools that we're all used to, Facebook, LinkedIn, and things like that, where that all becomes part of your activities. One of the other nice things about, and this holds true to some of the other web parts we've already looked at, is the ability in SP Community, because these are web parts, you can put them where you want and you can actually configure them and kind of build out your community homepage the way you want. So you can move the My Groups over to the left and move activities and move things around. You can also control how many items are loaded and how many items are displayed at one time on the page. It gives you a little bit more visual control over how your page looks. So if you have a small area for activity feeds and you want to maybe limit to 5, you can come in here and change it to 5. Or if you have a larger area and you want to expand that out to 20, then you can show 20 at a time, all here within the web part properties. I'm going to move on to the group component of SP Community, which is something that SharePoint kind of handles with team sites and self-service site creation. But if you're using this in a broader scale, or even using it with in an extranet style fashion, where you may have users that have not gone through basic site owner type or SharePoint type training, and you don't want to necessarily provide them access with the ability to go in and go into site actions and create site, and you're concerned about them putting it in the right location and using the right site template. The SP Groups component comes with this My Group web part, which allows you to see all the groups that are out there. You can filter them. I'm looking at My Groups. I can look at all groups, or I can look at new groups, which are new groups that have been added in I think within the last couple of days, so you can keep track of what the new activities are. But the other thing you can do right here from the home page, in addition to being able to leave or join any of these groups, I can simply click on the Join Group, and now I'm part of that group. So I don't necessarily have to go to the page and go through a large process. I can simply, right here on the home page, oh, here's a new group that I'm interested, I click Join Group. And if I want to create a new group, and because we at SusQtech are having a chili cook-off tomorrow, I'm going to create a group for our chili cook-off, and I'm going to call this chili cook-off group. And you'll notice I have a number of different group types. Each group type is tied to a different, has the ability to be tied to a different site template. So if you have social groups versus work groups and things like that, you have the ability to define, using SharePoint site template feature, which site template is used for which group type. So the individual user who may just be a member of the community that wants to start a new topic that people are interested in for group discussion and collaboration, they can do it simply by filling out this wizard, and by selecting the appropriate group site, they will have the ability to, it'll control all of the template that they use and a number of the other settings that you, the administrator, define. I can also put in description. And then I can determine the access to content, which is all members of the site will have access to this content, or only members of the group will have access to this content. And then also, who is the ability to join the groups. In the case of the one I saw on my homepage for the SharePoint conference, that was set up for auto-approved, which so I could just quickly join the group. If a required owner approval was enabled, then the owner would have to approve my request to join that group, and gives the person creating the group a little bit more control over who's in and who's out of the group. I can also upload an image. So I've got a chili cook-off image here, which is a bit big. But it gives you the ability to crop that image when you upload it. I can put any taxonomy in and keyword terms defined in my my metadata. And then if I want to hide this, if I have a private group that's maybe for a leadership group or something like that, I can actually exclude that from the directory listing. I can require owner approval, and I can only have members of that group have the ability to see the content, and it makes basically a private group that people can't see, and only the people that are involved in would show up in their My Groups, and they would have the ability to view that content. So by filling out these couple of fields in this wizard, I can hit Create Group, and in the background it's going to use that site template defined, and I selected interest. It's going to use the interest site template. It's going to create it. It's going to make me an owner of that group, and then it's going to put it in the proper location and create the proper security. I'll let it go here for a second. And now you can see here I'm on the home page of the new group I created. So in addition to be able to create group with the Create Group wizard, we also include a number of web parts for styling and moving around and creating your own group landing page. One in particular is the kind of the group overview, which has built into this web part the logo you selected, the description, the ability for users to leave or join this group, and then if you're if a group creator or a group owner, you have the ability to manage your group settings, add a member, or manage members, all from within this web part. In addition, we included a members web part, which gives you a graphical kind of roster of all the people in this particular group. Now, since I just created it, I'm the only one in the group, but as people join and leave this group, you will see that this will build out and give you a list of all the people in the group. And the nice thing about this, because it's kind of built on native SharePoint, you can then, when you create your site templates, you can decide which additional out-of-the-box features you want to create and use, like a calendar or announcements or documents and discussions and all those other things that you would use in a team site environment, you can include as part of your template when you create them. And let's go take a quick look at one of the groups I'm in that's already built out with a little bit more content, which is the UX and Content Strategy group. And you'll see what I'm talking about here is we have a roster of the different people in the group with some pagination built in. There's discussions going on in this group. There's announcements in this group. There's documents being shared. There's a SharePoint list of important links relative to this group, and then there's an event calendar in there as well that lists any upcoming events for this group. In addition to the web part on the home page and the group page itself, there is a group directory which just gives you a full screen version of that web part and allows people a way to search and browse through groups in a larger bit of real estate. But it provides very similar functionality. You can create a new group from here. You can filter and look at new groups. You can filter and look at all groups. And there you saw that new chili cook-off group I created now appears in that new group section. The last thing I want to cover before we get into any questions is the last component of SB Community, which we call SP My Content. And one of the things about the social features of SharePoint 2010 is the fact that a lot of that is centered around the My Site capabilities within SharePoint. And a lot of the stuff that we've looked at here today is using My Sites, but it's using it kind of in the background. My Sites have a little bit of overhead in the fact that you basically get a site collection for every user. And if you're only using it for community activity the way we're using it here, where it's using it based on status and groups and colleagues, and you don't necessarily want to look at doing a full-fledged deployment of My Sites to all your individual users, we have created basically what we call SP My Content, which is any of the individual content that is for me personally is tied to my own essentially team site or custom site template. Which is available as part of My Content, which is really a SharePoint, customized SharePoint blog template. So anytime you upload a document or an image from your status, it needs some place to store it, so it stores it as part of this template. And again, then you have the ability so that the members within your community have the ability to create their own blogs. I have a blog post out here that I've done, but this works just like the out-of-the-box SharePoint blog does. It just has some customizations applied to it that allows it to tie in with the status and those images and things that we upload. So if I scroll down here, you'll notice that in my shared documents, I have a file that I uploaded, and then there's also a shared pictured library, which is where the images would go. Okay. So I think we have about 5 minutes left, and I know I covered a lot in a short period of time. So just kind of wrap up on SB Community 1.5. You'll notice that again, the big thing here is the cohesion through the different components and the user interface, and really a focus on the user experience. So with the exception of groups, which is an added capability or enhanced capability, really that SharePoint 2010 doesn't offer you out of the box in a fashion the way we're using it, where you have this very simple group creation mechanism. Everything else is built on top of SharePoint 2010 and leverages fully leverages the out-of-the-box capabilities, but takes it a step further and to how a real-world community is used. With the enhanced and additional activities, the interface here in the activity feed, and really to be able to do most of what you need to do, or 75 or 80% of what you need to do within the community, all from within your community homepage. And your community doesn't need to be, the nice thing about SP Community, doesn't need to necessarily be its own dedicated site or web app or site collection, but it can exist as a sub-site off of either your main intranet site, extranet site, or public-facing site. And then when people land on the community portion of that, then this is the type of content that they see, and then they can do a lot of that interaction right from within here, whether it's joining groups, finding colleagues, updating their status, or commenting on status. So that kind of wraps everything up. With a couple minutes left here, I'm going to look, open it up to any questions. I'm going to open up my chat window here. And I guess, Julia, I don't actually see the questions since I'm not a moderator, so if there are any questions, if you could maybe feed them to me, that would be helpful.
We do have one question.
Okay.
They want to know how the communities are created and what are all the web parts that come with communities.
With SP Community as the entire package, there's a number of different web parts. They're listed on our website, and they're listed and identified by which individual component they reside in. But pretty much everything you looked at here on the home page is a web part unto itself. So there is there's the community activity web part, and the My Colleague web part, and the My Groups web part, and the mini profile web part, and the My Discussion web part, as well as on the group page. There's the group status web part and the group member web part. And we actually reuse a lot of these in this demo that we saw here because these are kind of fluid and robust web parts that if I take the essentially the community activity web part and put it on the my profile with some slight tweaking, that's where it filters out and just shows my activity versus all of my colleagues' activity. So we have the ability to reuse a lot of these same web parts, and depending on where they are and how they're configured, they can display information slightly differently. But to get the complete answer to that question, Julia, because I'm sure I might have skipped over one or two, if you go to SusQtech.com and go to SP Community, you can find a complete list on the product page of which web parts you get and which web parts are located under each sub-product. And you can actually download, if I go to my next slide here. Oops. You can actually download a free 30-day trial of SP Community, which gives you all of the components, gives you all of the web parts, free, fully functional, free for use for 30 days. Will allow you to check out these individual web parts, look at the master page, look at some of the things you can do to build out your own community. Was that the only question, Julia?
Yep, that was it.
Okay, great. So I'd like to thank everybody for their time and just point out that our next 30 on Thursday will be on October 27th at 1:30, and this is Power Pivot for Excel in SharePoint 2010. This builds on the 30 on Thursday that Ann Wallinger did a couple of weeks ago, where she talked about kind of BI in general. For SharePoint 2010, this is going to deep dive a little bit more into the Power Pivot for Excel, which is a great add-on as part of Office 2010, Excel 2010, and SharePoint 2010 for doing business intelligence and reporting in SharePoint. And with that, I think we're done. And if there's no more questions, we'll go ahead and sign off. I'd like to thank everybody again for their time, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks.